It's lovely to be here with you today. I hope you've enjoyed the morning as much as I have. And with the idea being that we're, as high-growth businesses, we're looking to take away some ideas of things that we might be able to do to improve our businesses. So with that in mind, over the course, I don't know, of the next 45 minutes or so, I'd like to share with you 10 practical things that we can all be doing as businesses in order to be driving our business growth. Now, I have had the pleasure of speaking at high growth events previously, but for those of you who don't know me, the first thing I want to let you know is I can carry a sword in public, drive my sheep across London Bridge. Do any of you know what I'm talking about? I'm a freeman of the City of London for services to the IT industry. So I have to, as Stuart suggested, I am a geek and I can program computers using punch cards. So as we look at these kind of things, if I do get too technical today, I do apologize, but I just can't help it because I do absolutely love the technology. The second thing I want to let you know is I have been deported from France. This usually gets me a round of applause. Okay. Thank you. Have you all, I guess you've all appreciated, realized by now that I'm not from Nottingham originally. I was born and raised in the United States in the city of Philadelphia. So in terms of Tom talking about the East Coast, I'm one of those East Coast people. However, I have lived and worked in Nottingham for 30 years. I am a British citizen, and when I go to America, they think I sound like the Queen. So I am one of the guardians of Robin Hood's legacy. Are you all aware of the amazing project transformation that's going to be taking place at Nottingham Castle? It's a multi-million-pound project, and I'm a trustee on that project. And from time to time, you may hear me on the BBC. I'm going to be featured in the Financial Times next month in terms of speaking on digital marketing. So that's pretty much what we do. And in terms of my background, I say it like it is. So I'm happy to say no nonsense, practical digital marketing. I'd like to tell you exactly how I think things work. The other thing I think it's worth mentioning is that I am the managing director of a high growth business myself. So we're experiencing essentially 100% year-on-year growth. I have a couple of coaches in this room, you know who you are, Stuart, that I would like to say thank you to the coaches that have provided me with exceptional coaching that's helped us to grow our business here in much the same way I think all of us want to be doing. Now, as I put together today's presentation, I had to stop and think, what kind of things shall I share with you? And one of the things that we've produced is this lovely digital marketing map that provides a schematic of all the things that we could be doing in terms of digital, whether it be Google, whether it be our websites, whether it's social media, what we're doing with analytics. And again, it's a huge, huge area. By the way, if any of you would like a copy of the map, my colleague Jake is here today. We've got a stand, and if we can't give one to you today, I don't know how many you've brought, Jake, we can post one to you as well. But what I did is I looked at the map, I tried to think, what are the 10 most important things for you to be thinking about over the course, let's say, of the next 6 months for you to continue to achieve sustainable growth in your businesses? So what I've done is, of course, at the heart of what I'm going to speak to you about is going to be Google. And again, Google's market share here in the UK remains a rather boring 80-some, 90-some odd %. We all use the Google search engine, but there are a lot of changes taking place. So the first tip I'd like to share with you is to keep your eye on Google. Make sure your business is well within the guidelines that Google is suggesting, because we do know if we're looking at successful businesses, they need to be driving traffic to your website. And it doesn't want to be any old traffic. It needs to be high quality, well-qualified prospects that are coming to your website with the intention of buying your product or your services. So if we take a look at what's happening new with Google, I'd like to let you in on a little bit of a dark secret that search marketing professionals have been working on. This is an experiment run by a guy called Rand Fishkin. And he ran this over the course of the summer. And if we take a look at the slide, the first thing he said is, and he did an experiment privately in the search marketing community and said, would you please search for the phrase best grilled steak? He had hundreds of people search for this phrase, and he then asked, please click on the top result, but then immediately click away. and tell Google, I don't like that result. Does that make sense? So it meant go in and look at it and then immediately leave. And then what he asked us to do is to go down to the third result and click on it and then stay a while and click and look at some other pages. And what you need to, so what do you think he's testing for here, guys? He's testing to see, do people like your content? Do they engage or do they bounce? And the result of this story is after 70 minutes, that means 1 hour, that post moved from position 4 up to position 1. One of the changes that's taking place on Google that is new that you need to know about is Google can see the interaction that is happening on your website. Google is looking for quality signals. And if people are dipping in and immediately leaving your site, they are voting with their mouse to tell Google this is not a quality website. So this is the first of the experiments. So the first thing in terms of your actions may be take a look at your website, see what your bounce rate is looking like, but more importantly, are you creating high quality, rich content that your customers are going to like and engage with? Because this is a search ranking signal. Now, the second thing I wanted to mention to you is that a lot of people are telling me search engine optimization is dead. These tend to be social media people, and they're idiots, in my opinion. So I think a lot of people are saying, don't worry about search engine optimization. It's all about social media now. Yeah, wow. And I'm like, no, I'm sorry, it's not. Search engine optimization is still very important. It's an important way to be driving traffic to your website. And I'm sure most of you as business owners will agree with me. Please do not let the social media people pull the wool over your eyes. And the second thing I'm being told at the moment is people are saying that there's something called Google+. Have any of you heard of Google+ before? This is Google's social media platform, and it is what drives this beautiful content that appears on the right-hand part of the search results. So when you search for Hallam Internet, it brings up our offices. We don't actually work in the whole bell tower, by the way. We just do a little bit down there. And it brings up reviews about our site. It brings up the fact we've got 5 gold stars. This is all coming from the Google+ platform. All of your businesses must be on Google+. All of your businesses must play by Google+'s rules. Do not let any social media idiot say, you don't need to use Google+ because nobody uses Google+. It controls the appearance, the marketing footprint of your business in the Google search engines. So as we also take a little bit of a look, there's lots happening on Google, and Google constantly is changing the rules of the game. And each of these algorithmic, it's called the Google algorithm. Google updates the algorithm, and Google won't tell us exactly what's going on. I was having a laugh with Tim over coffee, and I was saying I was recently down at I was at Google's headquarters last week, and I'm going to be speaking at Google at the end of this month, actually at the Google headquarters. And they say to me, well, do they tell you how things work? I'm like, yeah, right. No, Google does not tell us the algorithmic changes. But as an agency, what we need to be doing is to extrapolate, to figure out what levers are Google pulling that's influencing your rankings in the search engines. These algorithmic changes tend to be given names, and the current one that's filtering through right now is called the Google Phantom Update. And it's fundamentally what the Google Phantom Update is looking at, again, is the quality of the content on your website. Are you generating good, high-quality content? And in terms of high quality, Google is using a number of different measures. One of these measures, indeed, is social media sharing. So if people like your article, if people like your products, if people like your services, if any of you are in the process of what I would call thought leadership, positioning yourself as expert at what you do, Google knows that your content will get shared on LinkedIn. Google knows that people will retweet you. Google knows. Are you all aware of the deal that Google has struck with Twitter in the last few months? So Google has struck a deal to get Twitter's feed into the Google search results. If Google has spent that much money and effort on Twitter, brokering that deal, how important do you think social media is to the Google algorithm? But the Google Phantom Update, again, reinforces the concept I wanted to share with you. We need to be creating quality, high quality, rich content, not garbage. Now, the next part of Google I'd like to mention to you is Google Local. This is local search engine optimization. So that means if you're a company like me based in Nottingham, we actually do work. We're based near Rock City. You guys know next door to Rock City? It's really cool. The best people come to Rock City. When people search for an agency like ours in Nottingham, we want to appear on that little map with the little pins. Do you know what I'm talking about? This is called local optimization. And there has recently been published a review of what factors are influencing your local position. By the way, our agency was the only company in the UK invited to contribute to this poll run by a company called Moz. So Hallam Internet contributes to the Moz survey. And here's the data. But fundamentally what I wanted to talk to you about is that what locals looking at is, do you have your name and address on your website? Do you have a Nottingham postcode? Do you have a Nottingham 0115 phone number? There's signals that tell Google that you're a Nottingham company. But what also is happening is there's going an increase here on these three on the right. And these three things are the things I've mentioned to you earlier. The first one are called behavioral signals. And that means when somebody searches for an agency in Nottingham, do they click on your website and do they stay? The second signal is going to be social signals in terms of the number of times you get shared on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter. And the third one that is interesting that I haven't mentioned yet are your review signals. There are sites out there that Google trusts that will look to see if they are reviewing your company, are people giving review data. Now, at this point, if they leave a good review or if they leave a bad review is not the problem. The fact that they've reviewed you at all is what matters. So even if you get poor quality reviews, just like the world in PR, all publicity is indeed good publicity. So if any of you are looking at your Google local rankings, if you want to rank well for Leicester or Derby, Loughborough or Nottingham, then you need to be looking at your local strategy again. It is changing. And the other thing I wanted to do is to suggest to you the radical concept that perhaps businesses like ours, high growth businesses, should be having less reliance on Google. And here's some data that's been taken from Google Analytics that we can see that 86% of our visitors are coming from Google organic search. But we can also see then a growing list of other places. Where do people come from when they come to our website? Email marketing. We were discussing over coffee that I still remain convinced that email marketing has one of the highest returns on investment of any digital technique. High quality, targeted, perfect emails bring in the pounds and pence. Did you guys notice that Tom said he thought if he had 4 names and addresses on that piece of paper, each piece of paper was worth 40 pounds to him? This is a principle called lead gen, data capture. So what we need to be looking at is what other channels are you using to drive your digital strategy? Are you too reliant on Google? But are you also driving traffic through social, through email, through display advertising, all kinds of different formats? And this is a strategic decision that you all need to be thinking about. So I've mentioned the word algorithms, and I'd like to shift gears now and talk to you a little bit about the major social media channels. And the first one I'd like to discuss with you is Facebook. As a curiosity, how many of your businesses are on the Facebook page network? This is excellent news. Okay, so again, Facebook, again, huge amount of traffic. From time to time, Facebook is busier than Google. So again, this is where we could be getting traction. But what I wanted to discuss with you is an algorithmic change on Facebook, which means Facebook is pulling the levers. And the change on Facebook I want to mention to you is known as Facebook Zero. And what this means is if your business posts something onto Facebook, this is you as a business, not as a person, but as a business, posts onto your page, It's highly likely that it's not going to be seen by any of your fans. Facebook is turning off the feed coming from businesses because it knows people, to be frank, don't want to hear from you on Facebook. They don't want you in their news feed. So what Facebook are working on is monetizing their revenue. They are looking to create greater revenue. So as businesses, what does Facebook want us to do? Advertise, isn't it? They want us to pay to get our stories in front of our customers. So the change for all of you is if you are busy on Facebook, updating your status on Facebook as a company, you must be keeping an eye on how many people share your content, how many people like your content. Because a good sign is if nobody's liking and nobody's sharing, or only small numbers, this is because nobody is seeing your content on Facebook. Facebook has turned off your news feed. You are not reaching your audiences. So be very careful in terms of what you're planning for, in terms, again, of return on investment, in terms of your Facebook strategy. Other algorithms, I don't know how many of you are quite active on social media, but there was earlier this week a huge announcement, a quite significant announcement made by Twitter. And Twitter has made another large algorithmic change just this week on something called Twitter Moments. This is a very important point for all of us in this room, because fundamentally what Twitter Moments are going to do is try to cut through all the noise and the garbage on Twitter and create collections of stories about what's important at the moment. So if I'm interested in what's happening, I can go to a Twitter moment and all the tweets pertaining to that event will be in a curated collection of good tweets. Where do you guys want to be? You want to be in that curated list, don't you? You want to be commenting on things that are pertinent to your industry. We work, for example, with a company called Westerman's International, and they export secondhand welding equipment, to be frank. But even within, there's a lot of discussion on Twitter about the welding industry. So what we need to ensure is that Westermans are tweeting really intelligent thought leadership type tweets that will get collected into a moment, because who is going to be interested in welding tweets? Other companies that are going to buy welding equipment, thank you very much. Does that make sense? So we need to make sure, A, that we are visible on Twitter, and that B, we are generating high enough quality tweets, not about kittens. We're not talking about kittens. We're not talking about cake. We're going to be talking about our businesses that we're in so that we can join the Twitter Moments revolution. This is brand new, so it'll be very interesting to watch to see what impact this has. And the other algorithm I wanted to mention to you, of course, is LinkedIn. Now, if I ask this question, I'm sure we're going to know how many of you guys are on LinkedIn. Every single one of you put your hands up. I knew this is it. We all tend to understand LinkedIn as a business social network. And again, I find it has a phenomenal return on investment for our own business. It generates a lot of leads for us. We get a lot of inquiries off of LinkedIn. And I also have evidence that shows that it generates leads and inquiries for our customers as well. But what I wanted to do is, in terms of the LinkedIn algorithm, the rules on LinkedIn, I wanted to remind you of something called LinkedIn posts. And this is the ability for you to write big articles on LinkedIn, interesting articles about your industry. And what this will do is enable you to reach larger markets. Now, I didn't do this on purpose, but I just thought I'd share it with you anyway. Yesterday at lunchtime, I published a post on LinkedIn about it was a big, long article about the fact that for the first time, Google is taking a search engine optimization company to court for claiming to be able to get you to the first page of Google. Nobody can promise you that, can they? Can you please all shake your heads and say, nobody can promise you anything on Google. I put an article on, and what's interesting is, and I have my stats here, this has not been live for nearly 24 hours, 3,756 people have read my post. And it's been shared, it's been liked by 272 people. Now what's interesting is, this is not normal. But what's happened is in the LinkedIn algorithm, the editor of LinkedIn Pulse. Are any of you aware of Pulse? That's where the little articles are down the side that are interesting articles. The editor picked up the post, and they have featured it and splashed it across the LinkedIn network. So what we need to do for all of you is figure out what kind of content will the LinkedIn editor want to share on your behalf. That's where we're going to get the traction. There are business-to-business, very specific groups. I'm not going to say that there's a welding group, because I know there isn't, but there are manufacturing groups, there's aerospace industry groups, there's construction groups, there's chemistry groups, there's pharmaceutical groups. Who's your target market, and what kind of content do you need to be creating that the LinkedIn editor will share your content and get you 3,000 views of your content in less than 24 hours? Here's the magic, I think, in terms of the significance of using something like social media. Now, I've used the word return on investment quite a lot in the context of social media. Just out of curiosity yesterday, I went to Google and I searched for the phrase ROI social media. Lo and behold, there's 31 million articles of people writing about return on investment on social media. This, I think, is the biggest challenge facing so many of our businesses, is if you are paying someone to do your social media, and if you're, the big cost of social media is people's time. If you're paying for social media, how are we going to measure the return on investment? And the problem, as I see it at the moment, is most social media experts are still saying, oh, well, I tweet 16 times a day. And I say, so what? And they say, oh, and I've written 8 blog posts. And I say, so what? Social media, they tend to be measuring activity. And you wouldn't allow this to be the case in any other part of your business. We need to be looking at the fact, does it deliver against our marketing objectives? Does it deliver leads? Does it allow us to get closer to our existing customers? So do you know when I put that post on LinkedIn, do you know what one of my most important metrics is in terms of return on investment? I want to know how many of my customers liked it. Why? What's my marketing objective? Loyalty and retention. When I've got you as a customer, I don't want to lose you. So I want to make sure everything I do pleases you. So we need to look at our marketing objectives and apply rational business metrics against our social media. And as you say, not all likes are created equal. If one little person with hardly any influence likes what you do, then you have to say, so what? But if a big gun likes what you do, it's going to then amplify your message out, and in terms of making you a thought leader at what you're good at, this could be one of our objectives. So we think about social media, and within social media, I've mentioned several times that the big strategic change for 2015 has been content marketing, generating great content. And I've pulled some data here, and this is, by the way, is American data, but there's nothing wrong with American data, you guys. This data is from the United States, and what it does is it lets us know what the most popular content marketing techniques are. And we can see that it is things like writing blogs, creating newsletters, creating YouTube videos, running webinars. So what some of you may want to be thinking about is if we look at this spectrum, infographics and reports, white papers and blog posts, all of this content on LinkedIn, all these things, you need to come up with the cunning plan of the few things that you're going to focus on. What's going to make a difference to your bottom line? Because I think one of the problems at the moment is people are scattering themselves so thinly on digital marketing that they're not doing anything particularly well. But so if we think about content marketing, I did a workshop recently with Experian, and I used this slide, so I've nicked it out of that presentation. in this example, what we're thinking about is if we're doing content marketing to support our sales process, we're going to revert back to the beautiful model that you all know already, if any of you work in sales, that people need to research your product or service. They'll consider your product or service. They may try and test your product and service, and then they will buy your product and service. What we need to do is create content at each point of the buying journey. You'll find different kinds of content are going to appeal to me depending on where I am in my relationship with you and what I know about your business and what it is that you have to sell. So I think this could be a very easy, strategic framework for you to think about. This is the kind of content I want to create, and this is the objective that we're trying to hit. Problem is, with content marketing, when I go into companies, they say to me, the first thing they'll say is, content marketing is a good idea. I think you'll all shake your heads, aren't you? You'll go, yeah, content's good. And then you'll say to me, I haven't got enough time. I haven't got the resource. I don't have any good ideas. The big one that we get is I work in a boring industry. Well, then you're in the wrong job, if you think that you're in, but don't you, I mean, you look at these people and you're saying and again, I come back to, as an example, Westerman's, the welding company, they're passionate about what they do. And if you write a really cool article about TIG welders and how great they are, people who like welding are going to pick up on the passion of what you do. So we're looking at the biggest challenges is producing the kind of content that's going to engage your customers. And again, this, to be frank, is just a knack. As an agency, we have recently hired 3 journalists to join our team who are used to writing and creating engaging content. So you can imagine if an agency like ours is investing in this, this is something that either you should be looking at or it's something that you indeed need to be doing in-house. Now, as I barrel, is everybody hanging in there? Have I confused you yet? Everybody okay? If I may, I'll leave some time for questions and answers at the end, if that's all right. So if I get through my content and we have some discussions at the end. Another big trend, and again, one that we're specializing as an agency at the moment, is something called, you've all heard of SEO, haven't you? Search Engine Optimization, SEO. And we're now working in something called CRO, which stands for Conversion Rate Optimization. And what that means is my website is getting thousands of visitors a month. We get thousands and thousands of visitors, but they're not buying anything. And they're not signing up for my newsletter, and they're not doing what I want them to do. Conversion rate optimization is the art and science of creating a test where we might have 2 versions of your homepage. And when somebody searches for your company, Google will automatically serve either test version 1 or test version 2. And we are able to test which one meets your objectives better. We could create different versions of your product pages, and we can figure out which version of the page gets more people to put something in the basket. We can test the checkout process, that as I start to put my credit card in, can we make it easier for her to complete the purchase? In our case, we're interested in lead generation. So we want to see how can we encourage people to request a copy of our digital map, or how can we encourage people to download our white paper? Now, in this particular example, we're working with a company called the Sofa Bed Company. This is a test that we ran, and fundamentally what we were trying to figure out is which picture of the bed is going to sell the most beds. So here are 6 versions of the home page. We have one picture of the bed open so you can see how much stuff you can store in it. We've got one picture in a very sleek and modern white covering, appealing probably to our loft people living in the lace market. We've got pictures of the bed that makes it look like a study. We've got a picture of a bed that looks like a children's bed. We've got all these versions of the bed, and we let Google run and rotate these versions of the bed, and we discovered, which one would you guys guess? Which one do you think clearly was the winner in terms of selling the beds? It was the one on the top right. And that's because it was the children's bed. Why are people buying the bed? What are they going to put under the bed? Toys. So what we were able to discover is not those kind of toys, you guys. I'm blushing, all right. You put me off my stride on that one. What they found is that this is not what we anticipated. And what we need to do on conversion rate testing is we were trying to identify, it wasn't really the picture of the bed that we were trying to test. We were trying to figure out which promise does the company make that people want to buy. And the promise here is, even if you have children, you can make your house look tidy by hiding all the toys. So conversion rate optimization, if this is something that your business is not working on, in your list of top 10 things that I would be encouraging you to think about is, if you've spent time trying to drive traffic to your website, we now need to be figuring out how to convert that traffic to be more profitable, to power the growth of your business. I'm going to shift gears again. Here's another topic in terms of digital trends that I want you to think about. Again, this I would say has, again, probably the second highest return on investment. And this is a technology called retargeting and remarketing. I'm sure you've all experienced it. Have any of you gone to the John Lewis website and they have those really wonderful sub-zero fridge freezers? Have you ever seen them? And they cost £3,000 each. And I was looking at these sub-zero fridge freezers just kind of because I like fridges. Keep one under my bed. Yeah, okay, fine. And lo and behold, I go to other websites, and the fridge freezer is appearing on other websites. And other John Lewis fridge freezers are targeting me, and they're all American side by side. Some of them are more expensive, some of them are cheaper, but they're all John Lewis fridge freezers following me. I would use the word stalking me everywhere I go. Have all of you experienced this? This is called retargeting and remarketing. It is a highly effective conversion technique. It is a highly effective conversion technique that you know I'm interested in fridge freezers, and if you can simply keep pinging me with this, eventually you will succumb. But I've used it even with, again, I know, having looked at the list, there are a number of service businesses like mine in here. What you can also do, and this is a tip that I would recommend to all of you, is if you have come to the Hallam website, we've put a cookie on your computer, and when you go to another website, let's say a national newspaper, the Hallam banner will follow you everywhere you go, reminding thee that you have been to Susan's, the Hallam business website, and that you might want to get back in touch with us. So this is called retargeting and remarketing. It's used widely in business to consumer. However, it is also very effective business to business. And again, it could be based on products like fridge freezers, but you can also target based on visits to your website. What that also means, I'm going to let you in on another little deep, dark secret. If you were to come visit my conversion rate optimization page, the ad I'm going to show you is going to be about conversion rate optimization. If you have visited my search engine optimization page, the ad I'm going to show you is going to be about SEO. This is personalization starting to kick in. Again, we're one of the UK's, Google's largest UK partners. If any of you want to have a little chat, again, my colleague Jake's going to be here with you about that as well. Oh my gosh, isn't this a great slide? Another big trend I want to talk to you about, and this is a more difficult topic, is called marketing automation. And again, this is the application of technology to your marketing tasks. So it could be something like if you have an email campaign and I send you an email, I can see the fact that you clicked on my email. I can see that you opened it. But not only that you opened it, I know that you clicked on the side-by-side fridge freezer that I'm selling. What I can then do is send you a follow-up email that is tailored to the fact that I know you like fridge freezers. Email marketing is part of marketing automation. The fact that you've been to my website several times, I can target you. I could be doing it across, I can also see, for example, if you have followed me on Twitter, I could connect back to you on LinkedIn. So it allows me to integrate everything I know about you and build a profile about you that enables me to have a better relationship with you, that allows me to serve you better because I know what you're interested in. Now, the reason I put, so that you can be doing marketing automation across personalization, and if any of you are running events like this, event marketing automation is hugely powerful in terms of results on making events more successful. The reason I wanted to mention this to you all today is the price of marketing automation is coming down. So I used to work for a company called Capital One. I don't know if any of you have ever checked your credit card balances online, but here in the UK, I program managed the fact that you could check your credit card online. This was, I don't know, 20 years ago. At that point, it cost millions of pounds to implement this. It was outside the reach of small businesses like ours. But marketing automation is getting less expensive. It is getting more sophisticated. And if any of you are ready to take the next step in terms of your digital marketing, that might be on the horizon of things that you might like to talk about. Tom also mentioned, did you guys remember, I don't know if any of you listened, Tom gave some pretty cool statistics. He said about 35%, I think he said, of all of his sales at Jules are online sales. Is that right? Wasn't it 35%? Then did 30%. 30% of his sales are online, of which 40% are off a mobile device. Again, for any of your businesses, are we starting to think about your mobile strategy? I hope you're all aware that if your website is not mobile friendly, Google will not show you in the search results on mobile. Are you all aware of that? So if Google knows that your site is no good on a tablet or a phone, you will not appear in the search results. However, we can also find that we might want to think about selling on mobile, or what's the user experience on mobile. For example, as a service business, I know that if you look at my website on a mobile phone, I have a pretty good suggestion that you're lost in Nottingham City Centre and you're trying to figure out how to get to my offices and need a map. So what we can do is anticipate, what does your customer want when they're on a device like this? On the other hand, if I'm on a device like this, where am I physically likely to be? At home on the sofa, aren't I? My husband is watching rugby on the TV, and I'm going to be using this device. For any of you who have as a target market managing directors like me, this is a great time to market to me, because guess what? On the sofa at home, I'm still working, aren't I? Do any of you work at home? We do, don't we? So again, we might want to be thinking about who is our target market, where might they be using these devices? And the fourth of those bullet points on the list I want to mention to you is called mobile first or mobile led. Are any of you in the process of creating a new website? And if you are, what you might want to be doing is ensure that you're thinking about mobile considerations first. It doesn't mean wrecking the desktop experience, but make sure, I don't know, have any of you seen, make sure that it's mobile friendly. Have any of you seen the videos of small children, 2-year-olds, 1-year-olds, starting to use desktop computers for the first time? Have any of you seen the video that they get their finger on the screen, and what do they do would they do it to the television? They're trying to swipe the TV. They're trying to swipe the computer. So as we think about this, this is the mobile experiencing changing our behavior. So we might want to be thinking, if any of you are planning a shiny new website, that you're building this kind of mobile experience in as well. I'm rattling through lots of ideas. There really are only 10 of them. I guess it feels like more than that, sorry. But the other big one I wanted to mention to you that I think is probably one of the hottest topics for the moment is the convergence of online and offline. And that means there is no such thing as digital marketing anymore. There is no such thing. I'm going to be out of a job. Jake, my colleague in the back, is going to wring my neck for saying this. There is no such thing as digital marketing anymore. It's just marketing. And digital is now just another channel. And what we're finding is the integration of your activities, so that if you're at an exhibition or a conference like today, what are you doing to integrate your digital with the exhibition stand that you have outside? Do any of you go to exhibitions? Are they cheap or are they expensive? hugely expensive. It's a huge investment. The capital cost, your people costs, the opportunity cost. So we need to be leveraging this. And in this particular example, what we can do is there's a technology that you can use that will create a piece of printed collateral like this. I'm not online, or I would show it to you. And when I get my iPad and look at it, it will automatically start to play the YouTube video where I explain my product or service, or I demonstrate how that TIG welder works. So what we're finding is print material is integrating beautifully now with these kind of digital devices. We've worked with a client that when we had a piece of print material and we looked at it, it created a digital fly-through that you could look inside a building as it was being constructed. This is virtual reality or artificial, in terms of this kind of fly-through. This technology is getting less and less expensive. Once again, it's getting more and more common, and it is accessible to businesses like ours. In this particular example, this is a beer mat. And if you get your iPhone and look at any of those artists who are going to be playing a gig at the pub, it will give you a sample of the music that they're going to play at each of these events that's going to take place in a festival. Can you use your imagination and think, how could this apply to your business? How can you show me how your products and services work? How can I meet your team and the people that I'm going to get to work with? So convergence of online and offline. I've covered a ton of stuff. So here, I just wanted to give you a quick summary of the 10 things that we've talked about, whether it be Google or social media. We've talked a little bit about mobile and automation, remarketing and conversion rate optimization. It's a big world out there. And I know one of the things that Stuart is going to ask you to do is to write down the 1 or 2 things that you're going to do from a workshop like today. The big problem I have is I'm sitting there, I can see you guys going, good idea, another good idea, oh gosh, 10 good ideas. And you're not going to be able to do all of them. So we need to prioritize what would you like to do when you leave here today. And Stuart, the idea of having your buddy who's going to check up on what you promised that you're going to do could be a very good one. Now, one thing I did want to give you a little bit of a sneak peek. I mentioned the fact I'm going to be speaking at Google's headquarters at the end of this month. And in return, Google has agreed to come to Nottingham to our offices. If any of you, it is going to, I'm afraid it has to be a by invitation only event. We have limited numbers of people, but if any of you would like to be invited to our offices in Nottingham, we're next door, as I said, to Rock City. It's going to take place on the 26th of November. If any of you would like to give your business cards or get in touch with my colleague Jake Elliott, who's here, we'll see what we can do in terms of, and I can't promise you anything. It's a relatively small group, but I'm just so pleased that we have this organized. And could I ask a favor, please? I hope you found the 10 ideas useful. Could I ask, could you either tweet about it, or personally, I'd prefer if you mentioned me on LinkedIn, because that's more important. If you've enjoyed today and if you have found it useful, if you could give me a little push, because we're a teeny little company and we would benefit from your support. And if you know anybody who would benefit from a kind of the services that we provide, again, if you would get in touch, we're here to network. It's a great opportunity. So I would love to ask that little favor. So I think I've not quite overstayed my welcome yet. I still have 5 minutes. This might be a good time. Does anybody have any questions? I know I've covered a ton of stuff. Does anybody have any questions? Hi, Phil. Be nice.
Hi, Susan. Phil Down, Bedrock Tax. Testimonials. I understand the power of TripAdvisor. You mentioned Google+. Where do I get testimonials for my business online?
So the question is, and that's Phil from Bedrock Tax, where do I get testimonials for my business online? And I would strongly suggest that you do want to get businesses on the Google+ platform. So that means that the person has to go to Google+, they have to be logged into a Google account, and they can then leave you a review, and most importantly, they give you your 5 stars. If any of you want, the problem is that people have to be logged into Google in order to leave you this review to get your stars. 2 tips. The first tip is, do any of you have a database where you list all your customers? Can you search through and find anybody at Gmail or anybody at Google Mail? To read the email, you know they're logged in. Does that mean simply to open the email, they have to be logged in? So why don't you send an invitation to these people to say, please, would you leave me a review? And the second thing that you might want to do that we've done is we have produced a single piece of A4 idiot's guide that we send to our customers to say, this is what you need to do to leave a review. The final thing I would like to say is, did you notice our website got the 5 gold stars? You only need 10 reviews to get your stars. I don't know if any of you noticed, but we have 11 reviews. So what do you think we did with my cynical little marketing hat on? I did not, well, no. Rosalind, and she's my friend. She said I made them up. I'm going to come back to that. No, we worked on getting reviews, but once we've hit the critical mass, we then took our foot off that gas and we've been working on other initiatives. Does that make sense? Speaking to that point, it is against the law to make up your own reviews. There is something called the Consumer Protection from Unfair Trading Regulations. If they feel that you are writing fake reviews, either yourself, anybody who works for you, or anybody who works for you who doesn't make it clear their relationship with your business, you personally, as a director of the business, face a £5,000 fine and criminal charges. Do not write fake reviews. Good. Any other questions? Thank you, Phil, for that lovely question. Okay, anybody else want to ask me anything? Well, may I take one more? Yeah? In the back. Hiya. Yes? Yeah.
It's a LinkedIn question. So we have a LinkedIn company group, which has a reasonable number of followers. We're a B2B business, so that's really good. But should we be publishing as individuals onto LinkedIn with our thoughts and ideas, or should we do it by the group? The reason I ask is we had someone that was doing it, but then he quit the company. So all of the good news kind of went with him.
So the question is if you're going to be using LinkedIn and LinkedIn groups, is it better to communicate as a company, Hallam Internet, or is it better to participate in the group and communicate and participate as Susan in the group? My gut feeling is people do business with other people. You know, it is, for most of us, I don't know about you, but for us, it's all about the relationship. So I would strongly recommend that the communications, the relationship building is actually at an individual level. And we find with our clients that working with experts, real humans, will get more interaction, will get more response than if Hallam Internet posts something. The question, though, however, is if that individual were to leave the company, they're then going to take all that LinkedIn love with them. That, my darling, is an employee retention issue. Which, and I'm going to hand you over to Stuart for that one. Fantastic. Are we good?
We're good. Brilliant. Round of applause.